It's Beatty. I just want to go over some of the questions I got in the comments on my recent posts and videos. But before I get into it, Patreon if you want to support me directly. There's text coaching there as well. Peak Male Physique for high value penis enlargement equipment. I'm going to talk about some of the stuff we're adding to the site in the next couple days. Leviathan Sups is had a restock on Vigor, and Amazon will have a restock on Vigor very soon. I have 20 dozen of them sitting on my front porch waiting to go out to Amazon. Anyway, then I think that's it. Yeah, what do you know? That might have been under a minute for once. First of all, if you are on the subreddit, we are about to pass 70k subscribers, and that's kind of insane when you think about it. Especially because I am from a little bumpkin county outside of Pittsburgh. Its population is about 63k and declining. So, knowing that the largest place I've ever lived in was about 60,000 people, I help that many people daily almost, is humbling. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm assuming we'll be over 100,000 by the end of the year. That's a lot of dick. But thank you. I couldn't be in this position without you guys. This was never my plan, but when opportunity strikes, you've got to take it. So, first questions, I got a lot about the massage gun with tunica malleability. And I talked to Swerve about this. And he's not a big fan of using a percussive instrument on such a delicate area of the body. And if you ask Hank, I guarantee you he'll say the same thing, because we talked about it when I first started using it. I think February of last year, so February 2022. I would err on the side of the caution that they are right. However, I still think it's relatively benign if you use very low pressure. The main argument against using massage gun for, say, tunica malleability or tunica release is that you get much better granularity with your fingers. So you can be more gentle and more specific with your fingers rather than using the massage gun. So if you're about efficiency, use your hands, get the burn in your forearms, and just deal with it. Not saying that you shouldn't use a massage gun. The massage gun's probably much better for your pelvic floor, just because it's better for getting those deep muscles than your fingers, for example. But I don't know how many of you guys will feel comfortable with something like that down in that sensitive area. Some of you guys might love it. So congratulations, fetish unlocked. But don't use a massage gun on your penis, probably, if you go off of Hank and Swerve's advice. So the next question is basically, when should I stop if I'm hitting my strain rate? So let's say you've been using the extender for 20-30 minutes and you're already at 4%. I would say once you get into the strain ratio, hold it for another 10 to 15 minutes just to make sure it sets in this 104% strain. Also, make sure if you're using a vacuum device that your glands are not falling out of the device. So for me, if I don't get a very good seal to start, my glands will start to fall out. So I need to pump the vacuum seal again. And normally I'm still within range once I fix that minor discrepancy. But just to be sure you're in the gain ratio, do that. But yeah, based off of the research, you should just stop at 104%, but I'm erring on the side of caution that once you hit that rate, you want to stick in that zone just for a little bit to make sure it actually hit that zone, if that makes sense. Bundled stretches, why don't I do them? Well, it's not that I don't do them, it's just I didn't get a chance to do them before I made, I think it was Sunday's video. Basically, Swerve does bundled stretches in his Apex extender. I just tried it out last night and I saw very quick fatigue. So we're talking about 30% more fatigue than my typical pre-fatigue, which would be the massage with just the strain sets. So instead of doing my normal straight out fatigue sets, So instead of doing just straight out fatigue sets, I would do 2 twists of bundled stretches at like 5-ish pounds of tension swap every minute for 6 minutes. So I did 3 bundled stretches each side. And by the end of it, I increased my elongation by about 30% compared to the baseline of my last routine. So I got like 2.8% typically after all of my tunica release stuff before bundled stretches, and then afterwards it was about 3.6%. So that's a pretty sizable jump. I'm almost already in the fatigue range already. However, it's only after one exercise. So I can't say, or it was only after one session, so I can't be definitive. But look, it looks like once you start adding all these different stimuluses, your tissues just start to fatigue much faster. And honestly, I don't think we can do much more to fatigue these tissues faster than what we're already doing. If you're doing what I do, we're scraping. We are doing massage under tension. I tried that yesterday too with this, another compounding variable. And then we did the bundled extensions. Yeah, bundled stretches. So that really is a lot of hands-on work. And a lot of people might not be willing to do that much. But if you're able to just sit down, do the 15 minutes worth of work before you do the extra 15 to 30 minutes of length work, you'll see much faster results, it seems. Not to mention, since you're not fatiguing the tissues as much or straining the tissues as much, you get much better erection outcomes. Just speaking from experience. So I already mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but I finally got the BFR cock rings. So the stuff that I've been telling people to get on AliExpress for years now. I have enough for about 250 orders. I just need to put them on the site. Not exactly sure how much I'm charging yet, but it's probably going to be like less than $2 per set. There's 3 sets of rings in here. So don't quote me on that. I need to check my numbers first. But you're going to need about 3 to 4, or 3 to 5 rather. So you're going to need about 3 to 5 sets to get a proper occlusion. This will fit anywhere from, let's see, like 4.5 inches all the way up to 7 inches base girth. So I'll basically have everyone covered that wants to do this stuff, and I still have the horse rings for the really well endowed. So also, I picked up some pump sleeves. I have one that's unopened right here. Basically, you put your dinger through there, put the penis pump on top, and it just keeps your fat pad and ball sack from getting sucked in. So if you get a tube that's slightly too big for you, you can keep a lot of your crap, keep a lot of your fat pad out of the tube. And if you have a lot of, let's say, turkey neck, it'll help mitigate it from expanding, eating up some of that pressure. So it's going to be probably worth your while. It's not going to blah, blah, blah. I'll probably just make it an add-on to the kit. So like when you check out or when you add it to the cart, do you want this as well for X amount of dollars? I think it's going to be like $5 to $6. Again, I haven't looked at the numbers since I bought them, so forgive me for not having specifics for this video. But yeah, it's going to be nice. The only issue is if you're like exceptionally thick, like me, humble brag, it can be a little hard to get off once you pump up. So I'll probably go into it on PMP doubles eventually. So I also get a lot of weird questions about my hair. Not weird, just like in general, questions about my hair. First of all, and this is the biggest thing, I just have insanely good hair genetics. Like, the only bad part about my hair genetics is my hairline, and that I have 3 separate hairlines growing out, and that's why I have so much hair. But essentially, a lot of guys just aren't taught how to take care of their hair. So if you want long flowing hair, you need to, 1, brush it out, comb it out, make sure it does not get knotted and natted. That's number 1. I wake up, I wet my hair, I comb it down every single day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. It is normal to see probably like 20 to 30 hairs when you do this. You lose about 50 to 100 hairs a day on average, and then they just repopulate. Unless you have alopecia, androgenic alopecia, or immunoalopecia, where your immune system actually attacks your hair. Most of you guys would know that already. But if you're losing 50 or what did I say? About 30 hairs in the morning. That's normal. For me, I have more dog hair in my hair than I do my hair falling out. But again, I have very good hair genetics. So one, keep it clean, keep it from getting knotted, and that's how you're going to keep it nice and smooth for the most part. Then the premise of shampoo and conditioner is pretty simple. Shampoo strips all the oils out of your hair, and then the conditioner replaces those oils. That's kind of the issue, is that a lot of guys will just use shampoo, and then their hair eventually starts feeling like straw because they probably wash their hair, every day? Sometimes twice a day, depending how sweaty they are, but they never replace those oils. So they get very unhealthy hair after a while. Or they never wash their hair, and it gets very greasy after a while. So you need to figure out what hair you have. For me, I'm more towards greasy just because of how sweaty I get in general. So a lot more oils come up from my scalp. Keep this hair luscious. But since I am a greasy guy, I have to wash my hair more often than not. I probably wash my hair every day and I condition it every day. Depending on how active you are and how sweaty you are, you should probably only wash it every other day. For example, my wife probably washes her hair 4 times a week. And then if she needs a touch up, she'll use dry shampoo, which will pull out the oils that are kind of building up. But women's hair is a little less robust than our hairs, believe it or not. So they can't take as much as a beating as we do, even though they use a lot more product. So find a shampoo for you. Find a conditioner that matches. Does not necessarily need to be expensive. My original stuff was probably about $6 to $7 a bottle. So it's Garnier Fructis. I literally just used my wife's stuff. But now I switched over to a DHT blocking shampoo just because I'm still on anabolics. And I've been on it for quite a while. I'm starting to get worried about my hairline. So not that I'm losing my hair, but just to prevent any losses, I started using DHT blocking shampoo. Another interesting thing is that it made my hair a lot more wispy. So before it was kind of thick and dense, because DHT is actually what causes your hair to get dense. That's why us men get chest hair, because those tiny little hairs become mature under DHT. It's called keratinization. And keratinization is caused by DHT binding to that receptor. What causes male hair loss is the DHT actually burns out that receptor over time. And it depends on how sensitive your hair is to DHT. For me, I'm a very estrogenic sensitive dude, so my DHT is kind of downregulated in comparison. I don't have to worry about DHT exposure as much as the next guy on anabolics, but I have my own issues that I need to worry about. For hair, it's really simple. Keep it organized. So comb it out at least once a day before work, for example. Ideally 2 to 3 times a day to keep any crap from building up. If you want it to sit a certain way, so like I comb my hair back every morning to make it go backwards. If I didn't, it'd just be a bush. And then make sure you shampoo and condition afterwards. If you shampoo, always condition. Some days you won't need to wash your hair. You'll just know by feel. And it really depends on how much you work out and how sweaty you get. Also, white hair you need to treat a little differently than African hair. So if you are a black man, probably don't take my advice for this because we have different hair care needs. It's not going to be extremely different, but like dreadlocks, believe it or not, my brother had them for a while, need completely different care than my just normal long hair. Okay, as you can see, the camera moved because I had to stand up. But I got a lot of questions about fixing spinal compression. But before I can really explain what I did to fix mine, I need to explain why mine was fucked. So, I've been playing basketball like year-round, when I was a kid, that is, from the ages of 10 to 18, 19. So that would put weird stress on anyone's hips and knees. especially if you don't have good mechanics to begin with, and if you don't have like a strength and conditioning coach, you will never learn them. Anyway, essentially, since my left leg was my push-off leg, it would slowly drive my tailbone to the right because it's this kind of motion. So my tailbone actually started to twist a bit and push into my right hip joint, which then in turn decreased the angle that my hip can do without pain, at least under load. So what would happen was when I squatted, say, 315, I get tremendous pain in my hip joint. It would feel like I was tearing my groin just because it was putting so much pressure on the hip and nerves in that area. And when I squatted, it was never even, so my right leg would go out much farther than my left leg, for example, because it was trying to make room for my ass to come down. So I talked to Swerve, since he's the elite powerlifter and soft tissue expert, on how to fix this, and he gave me a few pointers on what I could do, and then I modified it a bit to work better for me. But first thing, it's real simple. And this also treats spinal compression, by the way, because what we're doing is we're trying to relieve as much pressure as we can from the spinal column, tailbone, and then put it back in place, essentially, without chiropractic treatment. I mean, maybe it is a kind of chiropractic treatment, but anyway. So what I did, and you can make this a progression if you want, but literally just Russian twist to get the obliques to open. He said to do 100 of these. So I did about 100 of those. Doesn't have to be like weighted or anything, because we're really just trying to get these muscles to relax and activate. Then I added this on my own, where I would just do, normal good morning stretches, hold for 15 seconds, 3 times, so 45 seconds in this position. I made sure that I would feel the stretch in my obliques rather than just compression on my hip. So one of the main things I did is I leaned back more and then looked up, and then I would feel it more on the opposite obliques. While I did this, I would prefer to have like a PVC pipe. My gym has a bunch of them laying around for whatever reason, to keep my shoulders back so that way I can't twist my spine to make it feel like I'm doing something. You know what I mean? So I do that, and then this is a deep tissue pressure point massage thing. I don't know the actual name, but this is a PSO right. It was like $70. You can probably get cheaper ones on AliExpress or Alibaba. Not sure if you want something like that with your spine, but that's on you. I would put it right at the base of my spine. Okay? And then, while this is on the floor, you lay down and you kind of make a bridge over it and then relax. And what that causes is pressure to be put on the dorsal flexors, I think, the lumbar muscles. And that causes them to relax, that opening up your hip. Not opening up your hips, taking pressure off your hips. And then finally, after I held that for about a minute, I would pull my leg over myself while laying on the ground, get a tremendous pop when I pulled my left leg over my right. I did this for about 6 weeks. On top of that, I got a deep tissue massage in Hawaii, and that's what actually fixed the spinal compression, because I told her, like, I have significant spinal compression, make that your focus, and she literally stretched me out like Gumby, and I was probably 1.5 inches taller after that session, if I'm being completely honest. It was weird. And then, to make sure it didn't happen again, I started really focusing on building up my obliques. So even though I'm losing weight, my waistline has actually gotten bigger because my muscles have gotten so much bigger around my waist. But that's one of the... Also, Jesus, this took a lot longer than I thought to explain. I would do just dead hangs. Now, this is going to be dependent on your weight, on how long you can do. But for me, I can do probably about 45 seconds to a minute hanging. I'm 220 pounds, 6'1". The real issue is my hands would just start tearing up. Like, you know how gymnasts have, I forget what they call it. My sister was a gymnast for a while. But essentially, their skin would rip. from swinging around on the bars too much. And yeah, not a fun time for her. But that would be my issues, that it would be ripping my skin rather than my grip strength not being able to hold me up. But anyway, you only need to do that for about 1 minute to 3 minutes, and that's just to get the spinal column to relax. I would do this before every single workout. I'm still doing it before every single workout while I build up my muscle tone in my obliques. Let's see how it looks. So, like, obviously I have fat because bad genetics, but it's much better than it has been, especially if you remember from before COVID. It was basically real skinny and then the fat. So, like, there was no definition there whatsoever. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. Speaking of COVID, let me get the camera back to the height I'd like it at to make me look gigantic. Okay. So speaking of COVID, I caught that in November, right? And now I basically rebuilding myself back to where I was after COVID. When I'm talking about my penis now. So this is what complicates things, is that since I was like 8.8 measured standing, it seems like I'm still not back to my peak size. And it's quite possible because, to be honest, I always thought Hank was skeptical of me, but he's like, I thought you were 8.8 come July, like a couple days ago. So I think Hank always believed me, even though I always thought he was a bit skeptical of me. Anyway. And then Swerve also said, I'm pretty sure you were like 8.8 before COVID too. And then we talked about blood holding tissue and how much it's fucked over by COVID. So I'm just trying to figure out what actually happened still. I think it was a mix of me slightly cheating on the ruler. So instead of like, jamming it deep into me and just saying, oh, look, I'm measuring, but it's really from my butthole, I would push down slightly. And that would change the perception of the measurement a bit. So if it's like 5 to 10 degrees below parallel, it could make me look about 1/4 of an inch longer than I really was. So it's not like a huge issue. But that's something you need to be aware of when you are tracking your own gains, that your own cognitive dissonance can make you believe improper measurements are gains. And that's another reason why I started measuring on top of a desk, just to make sure I can't cheat. Another issue, though, is that my erection quality was not that great to begin with, even with PRP shots. So I was easily able to bend out my curve. And it's not even that my erection quality wasn't good. It just wasn't great, if that makes sense. Compared to where I am now, compared to October, November, I have much better erection quality. It's the light and day difference, even though I would say I was about an 8 out of 10 before, now I'm like a 10 out of 10. The sky's completely different. But since my erection quality is now sky high, I've always had a slight curve upwards. Lucky me, I know. But now it's even more pronounced, and since it's harder, I can't push it down to measure. And ideally, you try to straighten out any curve you have, but for the sake of pretty pictures, I don't want to have both hands on my penis covering half of it, because then it just looks like I'm cheating. So basically, I've set up my logs on Reddit to be as consistent as possible, but there's still always going to be a variable that I can't control. For example, no one who would have thought that my erection quality would cause my curve to come back with a vengeance and potentially mess up my calculated growth. Because if you looked at my stretch flaccid from just this last log, I made a log yesterday, it was just under 9 inches, but my maximum bone pressed erect length was only 8.6. So there's a discrepancy of about 0.3 of an inch between my bone pressed erect length and my stretch flaccid length. That could be two things. One, I need more blood holding tissue, which I need to figure out the most optimal way to go about that still. Or I need to work on my curve, or at least account for my curve. So again, all I'm saying is that you could be growing, but it's not even showing on the roller because it could be covered by a curve, for example. Or because you lost weight with your fat pad, you now have to put your ruler in a different place, and it technically makes it appear smaller on the ruler, even though you should be measuring at the same place. Trust me, my weight's fluctuated the past 2 or 3 years. Depending on how deep my fat pad is, the harder it is to be consistent. Let's see. But yeah, that's... If I had to bet, I was about 8.6 before COVID with about 6.1 inches of girth. Like, if we're talking the strictest of measurements, like what I do now with the desk under me. But now I'm about the same size, just a smidge smaller in girth. But since I'm much leaner, I know some of you guys are like, he's not lean, but trust me, I'm lean. Especially compared to the general populace. My penis just looks much bigger to me. And that might also just me getting over some of my body dysmorphia. But yeah, I think that's everything I really wanted to go over. I didn't expect this video to be as long as it was, but, you know, shit happens. I want to do a live stream soon because they are fun, but it's just I can't find time, and I still have, like, now 8 consultations to schedule. So, again, forgive me. I do, like, do the consultations. It's just, it should be higher on my priority list, so I'm getting there, okay? Anyway. Peak Male Physique, that's not Peak Male Physique, that's Leviathan Wellness at leviathansubs.com and on Amazon. Pre-orders for Vitality are online. I think it's going to have a banger video. I still need to work on mine. Yeah. Peak Male Physique for penis enlargement equipment. Patreon if you want to support me directly, and limited spot text coaching. Again, thank you for 70K. Help me get to 10K, like and subscribe. Yeah. See you guys on the next one.